Welcome, everyone. Let's dive right into this explainer. We are so used to artificial intelligence just handing us the easy answers on a silver platter, right? Well, today we're looking at a tool that is explicitly designed to make us work harder. We're getting into the Brown's evidence-based medicine query generator. It's this genuinely exciting module from the EBM for Techies course, and it acts as a dedicated clinical reasoning aid. So if you're curious about where health tech meets medical education, you are definitely in the right spot. We're going to break down exactly how this browser-based tool takes raw clinical data and transforms it into highly structured, research-ready questions. Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. What is Vibrounds? 2. Privacy and API setup. 3. Inputting de-identified cases. 4. Generating critical appraisal queries. And 5. The human verification step. Let's get to it. Now, this concept completely flips our usual expectation of AI right on its head. When we think about AI in healthcare, we usually imagine this magic box spitting out a quick diagnosis, right? But this tool, it's a clinical reasoning aid that actually forces you to think critically. It literally prescribes questions, not answers. Let's start with section 1. What exactly is Vibrounds? Okay, before we look under the hood, we really need to define our terms here. What exactly is an EBM query? Well, it uses something called the PICO, or PICO-T framework. That stands for population, intervention, comparison, outcome, and time. It breaks clinical scenarios down into those specific buckets. Think of PICO as a query language for medical literature. It's kind of like what SQL is for databases. It is a structured way to ask highly specific clinical questions. And mastering this framework, it is absolutely vital, whether you're a medical student navigating dense research or a health tech developer building the next big clinical tool. Now, it is absolutely essential to understand that this tool is strictly for learning. It's a companion module for the Evidence-Based Medicine for Techies course, just restructured into this Vibrounds format. So think of it like a digital sparring partner to help you master structured medical reasoning. It is not, and I mean absolutely not, to be used for real clinical purposes or direct patient care. It's purely an educational sandbox. All right, moving on to section 2, privacy and API setup. This journey mirrors exactly how a clinician naturally tackles an evidence-based medicine problem in the real world. We move sequentially through 4 distinct steps. First, we have model setup, followed by case input, then generating queries, and finally closure and review. To keep things totally secure, the generator uses a bring-your-own-key model. You can plug in your own API key for Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever compatible endpoint you like. That key is stored locally, right there in your web browser. When you run a query, the data shoots directly from your browser to your chosen provider. It never touches some central Vibrounds server, which keeps the whole architecture incredibly lean. Honestly, for any developer who's ever had a massive headache over HIPAA compliance and server storage, this local setup is an absolute breath of fresh air. Moving right along to section 3, inputting de-identified cases. The tool is designed to be super flexible with how you feed it information. You can just paste your text directly into the browser. That could be a standard clinical vignette, a discharge letter, or even a SOAP summary. The subjective, objective, assessment, and plan data for a patient. Or if it's easier, just upload a file. It supports PDFs, Word documents, and plain text files up to 10 megabytes. That makes it incredibly adaptable to literally whatever learning materials you happen to be working with. Okay, pause here because I cannot stress this enough, and the platform makes it explicitly clear. Even though your API key is stored locally, your data is still going out to third-party LLMs, like OpenAI or Anthropic. Because of that, you must only use completely de-identified data. Seriously, never ever upload real identifiable patient information. It is a fundamental, totally non-negotiable rule of using these kinds of external AI tools for learning. Let's jump to section 4, generating critical appraisal queries. This is where the magic really happens. Depending on the specific decision points in your case, the tool aligns the logic for you to create these specialized inquiry threads. Like, if you need to know if a therapy actually works, it directs you toward a randomized controlled trial. What if you're testing the validity of a diagnosis? It points you straight to a cross-sectional study. A question about prognosis points to cohort studies, and a harm question points to cohort or case control studies. Basically, you just pick the decision points, and the generator automatically lines up the right evidence-based logic. And for every single decision point you select, the tool rapidly spits out this comprehensive suite of outputs. It gives you the exact question type, the ideal study design, a full PICO-T breakdown, a pre-written search string, and a pointer to the correct critical appraisal checklist. It does all the heavy lifting to structure your research. What used to be an hour of manual formatting and brainstorming, it's now just mere seconds of automated framework generation. But here is the crucial boundary of this tool. It's all about what it outright refuses to do. It generates the precise framework and those complex search strings to help you hunt, but it absolutely, positively refuses to answer the actual clinical question for you. It hands you the map and the compass, but it will not walk the path. It forces you to actually roll up your sleeves and engage with the scientific literature. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the human verification step. After you generate your various clinical pathways, you don't just walk away. You run a closure step. This consolidates everything you've generated so far and lets you stress test the AI's logic. In practice, that means checking things like, did the AI misinterpret a subtle symptom? Or did it hallucinate a clinical guideline before you move forward? Crucially, it also forces you to restate the patient priority. It re-anchors all of this high-level academic querying back to what actually matters to the real human at the center of the scenario. It is so critical to remember that the language model is just drafting a starting point. It's an assistant, okay, not an oracle. The onus is entirely on you, the human learner, to verify every single number, framework, and citation against the source literature. The AI accelerates the setup for sure, but you have to validate the execution. And that brings us to the ultimate reality check. It's the golden rule built right into the platform. Every output requires independent clinical verification. If you are a health tech developer or a medical student using this tool to learn, you simply have to take personal responsibility for the process. No exceptions. As we wrap up this explainer on the Vibe Rounds EBM query generator, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought about this evolving partnership between human reasoning and artificial intelligence. If we are entering an era where AI perfectly formats our PICO questions and drafts our search strings right out of the gate, how will that fundamentally change the way we learn to hunt for the answers? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.